I've lived in this house my whole life. The walls are cracked and peeling, the floorboards creak in the winter cold, and the old furnace rattles like an echo of memory. But I love it here. This is where I learned to bake bread, where Thomas and I shared our first Christmas, where Amanda took her first steps across the worn kitchen floor. This house holds every breath I've taken, every secret I've kept. It's been 17 years since Thomas passed. Some days, I still hear his voice in the hush of the morning, when the sun filters through the kitchen window just so. The air smells of yeast and flour, and I imagine him standing behind me, his hand warm on my shoulder. In those quiet moments, I feel like he's never left. But Amanda says I'm stuck in the past. She says I'm clinging to ghosts. She's always had a way of making me doubt myself, even when I'm sure of what I know. "Mom, I'm worried about you," she said just this morning. She stood in the doorway of the kitchen, arms folded, lips pressed tight. "You've been forgetting things." I paused with my hands in the bread dough, the flour caking my knuckles. "I'm fine, Amanda. Just a little tired." "That's not what I mean," she said, her voice low, too soft. "Last week you left the stove on, and the week before, you called me in a panic because you thought someone had broken in." I looked down at my hands, feeling the heat in my cheeks. "I was just being careful." "You're scaring me, Mom," she said, her voice trembling a little. "I think you might need some help." Help. The word scraped at me like sandpaper. I've never been one to ask for help. My mother taught me that a woman stands on her own. She never had much patience for weakness. "Crying doesn't fix anything," she'd say when I was a girl, her hands always busy, her eyes sharp and cold. I learned early to swallow my tears, to keep my voice steady even when my heart was breaking. Amanda doesn't know that part of me. She sees the careful house, the folded linens, the bread rising in the oven, and she thinks it's about control. She doesn't see that it's about survival. After Amanda left, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, the soft morning light spilling across the cracked porcelain teacup Thomas gave me on our 10th anniversary. I traced my finger over the chip in the handle, remembering how he'd laughed when I dropped it, how he'd said, "It's just a cup, Evie. It's still beautiful." I've kept it all these years because he saw the beauty in the broken, and I wanted to see it too. Patrick stopped by later. He's been my neighbor for years, a gentle soul with kind eyes and a voice that never pushes too hard. He leaned against the fence, his flannel shirt sleeves rolled up, and asked if I needed anything from town. "I'm all right, Patrick," I said, though my voice sounded thin even to my own ears. He nodded, his gaze steady. "I just wanted to check in. Amanda's been, worried," she says. "I know," I said, and something in my chest tightened. "She thinks I'm losing it." Patrick's brow furrowed, and he said softly, "I don't think you're losing anything, Evelyn. I think you're just holding on." Maybe he's right. I don't know anymore. At night, the house feels too big, the darkness pressing in at the windows. I hear every groan of the old pipes, every sigh of the floorboards, and sometimes I wonder if it's the house itself that's trying to tell me something. I keep the lights on in the hallway like my mother did when I was small. She used to say it kept the darkness from creeping in. I think it's the silence that frightens me most. I've started to notice things missing. Little things like my favorite tea tin or the green sweater Thomas loves so much. Amanda says I must have misplaced them. "You're always so particular about your things, Mom. Maybe it's time to let go." But I remember exactly where I put them. I'm not so far gone that I can't recall the smell of chamomile or the scratch of that sweater against my skin. Still, her words burrow into me, planting seeds of doubt. Maybe I am losing it. I whisper it to myself when the house is dark and still. Maybe I'm slipping like my mother did when she got older, forgetting the names of her own children, losing herself in the fog. I remember the way her eyes went glassy, the way her hands fumbled at buttons and zippers, the way she'd cry out for her mother in the night. I never wanted that for myself. I thought if I kept everything just so, the bread rising, the teacups washed and stacked, the floors swept clean, I could hold it all together. I thought if I held on tightly enough, the pieces wouldn't slip away. But Amanda keeps pushing. She says she wants what's best for me, but her eyes are cold, calculating. She calls it love, but it feels like something else. like she's trying to peel me away from my own life, one layer at a time. I see it in the way she looks around the house, her gaze lingering on the old photographs, the worn furniture, the faded curtains, like she's already measuring the space, already imagining it as hers. She says it's for my own good that she wants to take care of me. But I hear the unspoken words in her voice. You're not enough anymore. I try to reassure her. I smile and nod, my voice gentle, my hands steady. I'm all right, Amanda. Really, I am. But she doesn't believe me. I can see it in the tight line of her mouth, the flicker of impatience in her eyes. She thinks I'm too fragile to know what's real. Patrick believes me, though. He sees the way Amanda's words chip at me, the way they make me question my own mind. He doesn't say much, he never does. But his presence is enough, a quiet anchor in the storm. Sometimes I think about packing a bag and leaving, just walking out the door and never looking back. But this house is mine. It's the only thing that's truly mine. I won't let it go, no matter how hard Amanda pushes. So I keep baking bread. I keep washing the teacups. I keep the house as I've always kept it, even as the cracks deepen around me. Because in the quiet spaces, in the smell of yeast and the feel of warm dough in my hands, I remember who I am, and I hold on to that, even when the rest of the world tells me to let go. The days have begun to slip through my fingers like water. One moment I'm stirring a pot of soup on the stove, the next I'm staring at the flickering hallway light, wondering how long I've been standing there. The bulb buzzes softly, casting shadows that seem to move when I'm not looking. Amanda says it's just part of getting older. She says I've always been forgetful, that I shouldn't worry. But I do worry, because it feels like pieces of me are vanishing, like someone's pulling the threads of my mind loose one by one. I try to trust Amanda. She's my daughter, my only child. She says she's here to help, but sometimes her help feels like a vice tightening around my chest. Little things have started to disappear. My reading glasses, the letter from the insurance company, the keys to the shed. Amanda shrugs when I ask about them, her smile tight. You probably misplaced them, Mom, she says, her tone sweet and patient. It happens to everyone. But I've never misplaced anything. I've always been careful, the way my mother taught me. I find myself clinging to the old photo album more and more these days. My hands shake as I turn the pages, each photograph a window into a life that feels like it's slipping away. Thomas smiling in the backyard, Amanda as a little girl with scraped knees and a wild grin. My mother, stern and elegant in her Sunday best, her eyes sharp even in the faded black and white print. I run my fingers over their faces, willing them to stay, to anchor me to something real. George has been stopping by with Amanda more often. He's a quiet man, always has been. His shoulders slump like he's carrying a weight he can't put down. When Amanda speaks, he listens with a kind of passive resignation, his eyes flickering to me and then away. He never contradicts her, never challenges her soft, insistent voice. But there's something in the way he looks at me, a flicker of uncertainty, maybe even guilt. One evening, I watched from the kitchen doorway as they spoke in low tones in the living room. Amanda's voice was gentle, coaxing. George's was barely a murmur. I couldn't make out the words, but I saw the way his brow furrowed, the way he twisted his wedding ring around his finger. When he caught me watching, he offered a small, strained smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. The house feels smaller these days, the air thicker. Amanda's begun to sort through the drawers in the living room, her hands quick and sure. She says she's tidying up, but it feels like she's rooting through my life. She found the old envelope with the deed to the house and laid it on the table between us. It's just a piece of paper, Mom, she said, her fingers drumming softly on the tabletop. You've got to stop clinging to it. This is my home, Amanda, I said, my voice shaking. Your father built this life for us. She sighed, the sound heavy and tired. I know, Mom, but things change. You're not as incapable as you used to be. I flinched at the word. I'm still here, Amanda. I'm still your mother. She reached across the table, her hand warm, but her grip firm. I just want what's best for you. You have to trust me. Trust. It's a word that tastes like ash in my mouth. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that all this was just her trying to protect me. But when I lie in bed at night, the darkness pressing in, I can't ignore the cold knot of fear in my chest. Sometimes I hear her moving through the house when she thinks I'm asleep, the soft creak of the floorboards, the muffled thud of drawers opening and closing. I tell myself it's nothing, that I'm imagining things. But in the morning, there's always something missing. A letter, a photograph, a small piece of me. One night, I woke to find her standing at the foot of my bed, her silhouette framed by the flickering hallway light. "It's for your own good, Mom," she whispered, her voice as smooth as silk. I didn't know what to say. My heart thudded in my chest, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. After she left, I lay there in the dark, the words looping through my mind. "For your own good." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her that this house is mine, that my life is mine, that I am not some fragile relic to be tucked away and forgotten. But when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. George never says much, but he sees more than he lets on. One afternoon, I caught him watching me as Amanda explained how she was handling things for me. The bills, the groceries, the small decisions I used to make without thinking. His eyes met mine, and in that fleeting moment, I saw something. A flicker of doubt, maybe even pity. I almost asked him for help, but the words stuck in my throat. I've spent so long keeping quiet, swallowing my fears and doubts until they feel like they're part of me. It's like she wants me to believe her lies. I whispered to the empty kitchen, my voice thin and trembling. The cracked, porcelain teacup sits on the table in front of me, a silent witness to everything that's slipping away. Then one afternoon, as I was folding laundry in the bedroom, I found Amanda's purse lying open on the bed. I shouldn't have looked, but something in me, a spark of the old defiance my mother always tried to crush, pushed me forward. Inside, tucked between her lipstick and a folded grocery list, was a crisp legal document. My name on it, the house's address. But the signature line was blank. My hands went cold. My breath caught in my throat. It was an unsigned document, a transfer of ownership for the house. Amanda had been planning to take it from me all along. I pressed the paper to my chest, the blood roaring in my ears. My mind raced with questions, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just about me forgetting things. This was about Amanda wanting to erase me entirely. I folded the document and slipped it back into her purse, my fingers shaking. I didn't want her to know I'd seen it. Not yet. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, the old photo album in my lap. The flickering light cast long shadows across the walls, and for the first time, I let myself cry. Silent tears that fell onto the photographs, blurring the faces of the people I've loved and lost. I'm not losing my mind. I'm losing my place in this world, piece by piece, taken by the one person I thought I could trust. But now I know. Now I see the truth in the flicker of George's eyes, the tight line of Amanda's mouth. They think they're winning, but I'm not done fighting yet. The house has always been a reflection of my mind, each creaking floorboard and peeling wall echoing the secrets I've kept buried. But lately, it's the mirrors that haunt me most. When I look into the cracked glass above the dresser, I see a face I almost don't recognize, a face that looks too much like my mother's. She was a hard woman, my mother. Her words were sharp enough to cut, and she never had time for weakness. "Don't let them see you cry, Evelyn," she'd say, her voice as cold as the November wind. My father never contradicted her. He was a quiet man, all stern lines and silence, his eyes always somewhere else. In our house, there was no room for softness, no room for doubt. Sometimes I wonder if Amanda sees that same woman in me. She doesn't say it outright, but I can hear it in her voice, the same cold edge my mother used when she thought I was too soft. "You're always so dramatic, Mom," she tells me, her tone laced with condescension. "You're just like Grandma." The words land like a slap, a memory I can't escape. My mother's disapproving eyes, the way she would purse her lips whenever I dared to speak up. I spent my whole childhood trying not to be her, but now staring at my reflection, I wonder if I failed. The cracked mirror distorts my face, lines and shadows shifting with the flicker of the hallway light. I reach out, my fingers brushing the cold glass, and for a moment it's like my mother is looking back at me, her mouth pinched, her eyes filled with disdain. Am I reliving my mother's life? I whisper to the empty room. The thought chills me to the bone. Amanda's gaslighting has only grown worse. She moves through the house with a quiet authority, her soft voice belying the steel beneath. "You're imagining things, Mom," she says when I tell her the mail has gone missing. "You're just tired." Or, "You always forget these little details. You know how you are." It's the same thing my mother used to say when I was a girl, fumbling my words or crying over a scraped knee. "Stop being so dramatic, Evelyn. No one wants to hear your nonsense." I've tried to fight it. I've tried to hold on to what I know is real. But Amanda's voice seeps into my bones, and some nights I lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if she's right. Patrick has noticed the change in me. He's always been kind, always careful not to push too hard. This afternoon, he stopped by with a jar of honey from the farmer's market. He set it on the table, his eyes meeting mine with a quiet worry. "How are you, Evelyn?" he asked, his voice soft but steady. "I don't know," I admitted, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "I think Amanda's trying to erase me." He didn't dismiss me. He just nodded, his brow furrowed. "I've seen her with George," he said slowly, choosing his words like a man walking a tightrope. "They're always whispering when they think no one's listening." My heart tightened. I thought maybe I was imagining it. "You're not," he said firmly. "I see it too." There was something comforting in that, knowing I wasn't alone in my doubt, but it didn't make the fear any less real. Lydia has been coming around more often too. She's always been a force of light in my life, her laughter warm and bright even on the darkest days. She's noticed the way my hands tremble, the way my voice catches when I talk about Amanda. "You look so tired, Evelyn," she said one Sunday after church, her hand warm on mine. "Like you're carrying something too heavy to put down." "I don't know what to do," I confessed. "Every time I try to hold on to something, it disappears." It's like she's pulling my whole life out from under me. Lydia's eyes narrowed, her lips pressing into a thin line. "You can't let her do this to you. You're stronger than you know." I wish I believed her. One night, I tried to gather all my important papers: the deed to the house, the insurance documents, the letters Thomas wrote me in those first years after Amanda was born. I thought if I could hold them in my hands, I could hold on to the truth. But when I went to the desk in the study, the drawers were empty. My hands shook as I rifled through them, the old wood cold beneath my fingers. Amanda's voice echoed in my mind. "You're always forgetting things, Mom." But I hadn't forgotten. I knew exactly where I'd put them. The next morning, I confronted her. The kitchen was filled with the smell of fresh bread, the light golden and warm, but Amanda's eyes were cool as she stood across the table from me. "Where are my papers, Amanda?" I demanded, my voice trembling but fierce. She tilted her head, her lips curling into a small smile. "Why are you so worked up, Mom? They're just papers." "They're my life," I snapped, my hands curling into fists. Amanda's smile didn't falter. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. You're just confused." The way she said it, so calm, so certain, made my rage burn hotter. "I'm not confused, Amanda. I know what you're doing." Her smile slipped then, just for a moment, and I saw something cold and calculating flicker in her eyes. "It's for your own good, Mom," she said softly. "You'll see that eventually." My breath caught in my throat, but I didn't back down. "I won't let you take this from me." She just shook her head, pitying and cruel all at once. "You're being dramatic, Evelyn, just like your mother." The words felt like a slap, but I refused to flinch. Later that day, as the sun dipped low and the shadows lengthened, I was dusting the hallway when I noticed something strange. A small black dot, no bigger than a thumbtack, hidden high up near the ceiling. I stepped closer, squinting at the tiny lens glinting in the fading light. A camera. Amanda had been watching me all along. My breath turned to ice in my lungs. The walls of the house seemed to close in around me, every creak and groan a threat. I pressed my hand to my chest, feeling my heart pound beneath my ribs. I thought of Thomas then, his laughter warm and sure, the way he used to hold me when the world felt too sharp. "Don't let them take your light, Evie," he'd say, his breath soft against my hair. I won't, Thomas, I promise. Because I see it now. The ghosts of my past, the cracks in the mirror, the lies in Amanda's smile. She thinks she can rewrite my life, but she doesn't know me as well as she thinks. I'm not my mother. I'm not just a reflection in a cracked mirror. I'm still here, and I'm not done fighting. I've spent most of my life trying not to be my mother, but in quiet moments, I see her shadow in the corners of my mind. She was a woman who never apologized, who never let her voice tremble, no matter how deep the hurt. She raised me to be small, to stay quiet, to swallow my fears so deep they felt like part of my bones. I learned early that there was safety in silence. My mother's voice was a constant in our home, sharp and certain. "Don't be so dramatic, Evelyn," she'd say when I cried. "No one wants a woman who can't hold herself together." My father's silence was an echo that filled the spaces she left empty. He never said much, but his eyes told me everything. That peace was worth more than truth. That quiet was easier than conflict. Those lessons never left me. Even now, decades later, I feel them in the way I hesitate to speak up, the way I bite my tongue when Amanda's voice grows cold and sweet all at once. She's mastered the art of control, just like my mother. The way she tells me I'm fragile, that she's only trying to help, it's all too familiar. The house feels heavy with memory. Yellowed photographs in cracked frames, the quilt my grandmother stitched by hand draped over the arm of the couch. Reminders of the women who came before me, each one carrying her own silent burden. I run my fingers over the quilt's frayed edges, remembering the nights I spent wrapped in its warmth, feeling safe in a way I never did in my mother's arms. Amanda doesn't see the weight of these memories. She sees clutter, relics of a past she'd rather forget. She's taken over everything now, my medication, my doctor's appointments, even the visitors who come to the door. "It's just easier this way, Mom," she says, her voice smooth and soothing. "You don't need to worry about any of it anymore." But I do worry, because with every pill she hands me, every appointment she reschedules, I feel myself slipping further away from the woman I've always been. It's not just the house she wants to claim. It's me. I watch her move through the rooms like she owns them, her footsteps sure and silent. She knows exactly where to stand to catch the light, exactly how to tilt her head so that her concern looks genuine. "You're so fragile now, Mom," she said last night as she handed me my medication. "I'm only trying to help." The words tasted bitter in my mouth. "I don't need your help, Amanda," I said, my voice trembling with the weight of everything I'd never said. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I know you think that, Mom, but you're not as strong as you used to be." Lydia sees it, though. She's the only one who does. She came by yesterday afternoon, her arms full of fresh-cut flowers from her garden, the scent of lavender and rosemary filling the air. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, her eyes sharp and kind. "Evelyn, you can't let her do this to you," she said, her voice low but urgent. "She's rewriting your life, piece by piece." "I know," I said, the words a whisper in the quiet kitchen. "But what can I do? She's my daughter." Lydia shook her head, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You have to fight back. This isn't just about you. It's about all the women who came before you. Your mother, your grandmother. It's about breaking the silence." I looked down at my hands, at the thin lines of my life etched into my skin. "I see it now," I said softly. "This isn't just about me. It's about generations of silence." Lydia reached across the table, her hand warm and steady on mine. "Then you have to be the one to break it." George was there too, standing in the doorway, his eyes darting between us like a man caught in a storm he doesn't understand. He never says much, but I can see the unease in the way he fidgets, the way he avoids my gaze when Amanda speaks. "You know this isn't right, George," I said once, my voice low so Amanda wouldn't hear. He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing in his throat. "It's not my place, Evelyn," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "But it should be," I wanted to scream. "It should be." That night, after Amanda left to pick up groceries, I moved through the house with a quiet defiance. I began to hide small things. A key to the back door slipped into the lining of my coat, a copy of the will tucked into the pages of an old cookbook Thomas gave me on our first Christmas. Each act felt like a spark in the darkness, a reminder that I still had some control, no matter how small. I moved slowly, carefully, so Amanda wouldn't notice. The house felt alive with possibility, each shadow a hiding place, each creak of the floorboards a whispered promise. You're not done yet. The next morning, Lydia came by with news that sent a chill down my spine. Amanda's been talking to a lawyer, she said, her voice tight with worry. She's trying to have you declared incompetent, Evelyn. The words landed like a blow to the chest. What? I gasped, my breath catching in my throat. She's been gathering evidence, Lydia said. She's saying you're not fit to make decisions anymore, that you're unstable. I felt the walls of the house close in around me, the weight of every memory pressing down on my shoulders. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. But then, something inside me, something that felt like my grandmother's hands stitching that old quilt, something that felt like Thomas's quiet strength, steadied me. No, I said, my voice firm and clear. She doesn't get to decide who I am. Lydia's eyes filled with relief and pride. Then you have to be ready, Evelyn. You have to be ready to fight. I nodded, the fear in my chest giving way to something fiercer. I won't let her win. I won't let her erase me. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I sat by the window, the quilt wrapped around my shoulders, the photographs spread out on my lap. Each image was a piece of the life I'd built, a life I wasn't ready to give up. My mother's voice echoed in my mind, but this time I didn't let it silence me. Because I'm not her, and I won't let Amanda's quiet control become my legacy. This house is mine. This life is mine. And no matter how hard she tries, I will not be erased. Amanda's plan isn't hidden anymore. She's stopped pretending it's about love. She stands in my cramped bedroom, the pale morning light catching on the papers she's scattered across my bed. Deeds, bills, statements, each one a weapon in her quiet war against me. Mom, she says, her voice calm and sweet, the edge in it as sharp as glass. This is for your own good. You can't keep living like this and worrying about every little thing. Let me take care of it. I sit on the edge of the bed, my hands trembling in my lap. I've never been one for confrontation. My mother taught me to swallow my words, to keep the peace. But that part of me is slipping away, and what's left is something raw and fierce. No, Amanda, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. I see what you're doing. Amanda's face hardens, the softness she wears like a mask slipping away. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Mom, she snaps. You're not thinking clearly. You're not, well. I look at the papers, at the neat, impersonal language of the legal documents that would sign my life away. I think of the years I spent tending this house, baking bread to keep the cold out, mending curtains by hand because Thomas said it made the house feel like home. I think of the laughter that once filled these rooms, of the memories tucked into every corner. And I know that this moment is the line I won't let her cross. The bedroom feels smaller than ever, the air thick with unspoken words. My eyes drift to the photograph of Thomas on the nightstand, his smile, the way his eyes crinkled when he teased me. He would never have let anyone take this house from me. And I won't let her either. I've been a caretaker my whole life, I say, my voice growing stronger. For you, for your father, for everyone else. But it's time I take care of me. Amanda's mouth tightens. You're being ridiculous, she says, her fingers drumming on the edge of the dresser. You're going to make this worse for yourself, you know that? She doesn't see it. The way my spine straightens, the way my breath steadies. She doesn't see that for the first time in years. I'm not afraid. I get up from the bed, pushing past her. The air in the hallway is cooler, the old house sighing around me. I go to the kitchen and start baking bread, the smell of yeast and flour grounding me, reminding me of who I am. My mother's voice might still whisper in the back of my mind, but today I don't let it drown me. Lydia comes by later that morning, her smile warm and her eyes bright. You look different today, she says, handing me a jar of raspberry jam. Like you've remembered something you thought you'd lost. I have, I tell her. I'm done letting her make me doubt myself. She nods, her hand resting on mine. Good, because you're stronger than she knows. Patrick stops by in the afternoon, his presence a quiet comfort. We sit on the porch, the sun warm on our faces. He looks at me for a long moment, then says softly, "I see the way she talks to you, Evelyn. I don't like it." "I don't either," I say, my voice low but firm. "She's trying to take everything, but I won't let her." He hesitates, his eyes flickering with something like shame. "I don't want to be in the middle, Evelyn," he says finally. "But if you need me, if you ever need someone to stand with you, I'm here." I nod, my throat tight with gratitude. "Thank you, Patrick." But Amanda isn't done. She comes back that night, her voice gentle as she tells me she's closed the joint bank account. "Just until you're ready to let me take over, Mom." Her words are careful, but her eyes are cold. I feel the weight of it settle in my chest, the way she's trying to cut off every path, every choice, until all that's left is her voice in my head. "You can't do this to me," I say, my voice shaking with a mix of rage and grief. Amanda's mouth curves into a smile that doesn't touch her eyes. "I'm only doing what's best for you." But I know better now. I see the truth in the flicker of her gaze, in the careful way she rearranges my life around me like pieces on a chessboard. She's not helping me, she's erasing me. That night, I sit at the kitchen table, the bread cooling on the counter, the house silent around me. I think of my mother, of the way she taught me to be small. I think of Thomas, of how he taught me to be brave, and I decide I won't be silent anymore. I go to the attic, the air thick with dust and old memories. I pull down the battered suitcase Thomas kept his letters in. Yellowed pages tied with twine, his voice echoing across the years. And there, slipped between the folds of an old winter coat, I find it. A letter addressed to me, written in Thomas's careful hand. My breath catches as I unfold it, the paper soft and worn. "Evie," he wrote, "I know you. I know the way you hold this house together, the way you pour your heart into every inch of it. Don't ever let anyone take it from you. Not Amanda, not anyone. This house is your legacy. It's your life. Hold on to it, and hold on to yourself." I press the letter to my chest, the tears hot and silent on my cheeks. Thomas's words feel like a lifeline, a promise I thought I'd lost. In that moment, I remember who I am. Not the fragile woman Amanda says I am, but the woman who's built a life out of love and memory, who's kept this house standing through every storm. I won't let Amanda take that from me. I won't let her rewrite my story. I fold the letter carefully, tucking it close to my heart, and in the quiet of the night, I whisper a promise to Thomas, to myself, to the woman I've always been. I won't give up this house. I won't give up me. The letter from Thomas was like a spark in the darkness, burning away the fog of doubt Amanda had tried to wrap around me. I read it over and over at the kitchen table, the ticking of the old clock echoing through the silent house. Each word was a reminder of who I was, and who I'd always been. This house is your legacy, Evie. It's your life. Hold on to it, and hold on to yourself. I pressed the letter to my chest, feeling Thomas's quiet strength in every line. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't let Amanda take this place from me. I wouldn't let her. The next morning, Amanda arrived early. She walked into the living room without knocking, her eyes already scanning the room like she was searching for something to claim. Her voice was cool and practiced as she spoke. "Mom, we need to talk about the house." I folded the letter and tucked it into my apron pocket, my fingers steady. "I've already said everything I need to say, Amanda." Her smile was tight, her eyes sharp. "You're being unreasonable, Mom. You know you can't keep up with this place. It's too much for you." I stood my ground, my voice calm and even. "I've given you everything, Amanda. My time, my patience, my love, but not this." She blinked, the mask of concern slipping just for a moment. "You're making this so much harder for everyone," she said, her tone low and cold. "For you, you mean?" I shot back, my words quiet but unyielding. "This isn't about me. It's about what you want." Amanda's lips pressed into a thin line. "You're not well, Mom. Everyone sees it. Even George thinks—" "I don't care what George thinks," I cut in, my voice steady. "This house is mine, and I'm not signing it over." Amanda's eyes flashed, her mouth opening to argue, but before she could speak, the door swung open and Lydia stepped in. Her presence a warm light in the gathering storm. Evelyn, she said, her voice firm and comforting. You don't have to face this alone. We'll find a way to fight this. I promise I felt a wave of relief wash over me, the weight in my chest easing for just a moment. Thank you, Lydia, I said, my voice soft but strong. I'm not giving up. Amanda looked between us, her jaw tight. You're both being foolish, she spat. You're going to ruin everything. I turned to her, my eyes meeting hers without flinching. Maybe, but I won't be silent anymore. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with Lydia, the letter from Thomas laid out between us. She traced her finger over his words, her brow furrowed in thought. You need someone who knows how to handle this, she said, someone who can stand up to her lies. I nodded, my mind already turning. I know someone, Robert. He was Thomas's lawyer. He helped us buy this house. He'll remember. Lydia's eyes brightened. Then let's call him. The next day, I met with Robert in his cramped office downtown. The walls were lined with dusty law books, and the air smelled faintly of old paper and cedar. He looked older than I remembered, his hair gone mostly white, but his eyes were still sharp. Evelyn, he said, his voice warm and steady. It's been a long time. I need your help, Robert, I said, sliding the letter across the table. My daughter is trying to take my home. She says I'm not fit to live here anymore. Robert read the letter slowly, his brow furrowing. When he looked up, his expression was grave. This isn't just about the house, is it? No, I said, my voice quiet but resolute. It's about my life. She wants to erase me. He nodded slowly. I'll help you, but you need to be ready if this won't be easy. I am, I said, feeling the weight of every silent moment I'd lived through. I've spent my life keeping peace, but I won't be silent now. Back at home, Amanda was waiting for me. She stood in the living room, her arms folded, her eyes narrowed. Where have you been? She demanded. I had a meeting, I said, my voice calm. I needed some legal advice. Amanda's mouth twisted into a smirk. Legal advice? About what, Mom? About how to make this harder for everyone? I'm protecting what's mine, I said simply. Her eyes darkened. You're making a mistake. I shook my head. Number you are. Amanda's hands curled into fists at her sides, her voice dropping to a low hiss. You think you're so clever, don't you? You think you're going to win. This isn't about winning, I said, my voice even. It's about the truth, and I won't let you twist it anymore. The air between us crackled with tension. The unspoken war finally laid bare. She stormed out of the room, her footsteps echoing down the hallway. I watched her go, my heart pounding but my resolve stronger than ever. That evening I sat in the kitchen with Lydia and Patrick, the three of us huddled around the table. Lydia's hand rested on mine, her voice low and fierce. We're going to see this through, Evelyn. She can't take this from you. Patrick nodded, his eyes kind but wary. You've got more strength in you than she knows. I smiled faintly, the warmth of their support settling around me like a shield. Thank you, both of you. I'm not alone anymore. But just when I thought I'd found my footing, the world shifted again. The next morning, as I was cleaning the kitchen, I found a bank statement tucked in the back of a drawer. My name at the top, but the signature at the bottom. It wasn't mine. My breath caught in my throat as I read the line item. A large withdrawal I hadn't made. I held the paper in my shaking hands, the truth crashing over me like a wave. Amanda had forged my signature. She'd taken money from my account, stolen it right out from under me. For a moment, the room seemed to tilt, the walls closing in around me. But then I felt the weight of Thomas's letter in my apron pocket, his words like a steady hand on my shoulder. I took a deep breath, my hands steadying. This wasn't just about the house anymore. Amanda's deception went deeper than I'd ever imagined, but I wasn't going to back down. I folded the statement and tucked it away with the letter, my heart calm and clear, because now I had proof. Now I had the truth, and I would not let her silence me. The cold rain fell in sheets outside, a steady rhythm against the old window panes that made the whole house feel like it was shivering. I stood in the kitchen, the lights off, the weight of Amanda's betrayal pressing down on me until I could barely breathe. My own daughter, my own blood. I watched through the window as Amanda's car pulled into the driveway, her headlights cutting through the gloom. For a moment, I saw her face in the glow of the dashboard light, calm, composed, untouched by the chaos she'd sown. My heart twisted in my chest. She stepped out of the car, pulling her coat tighter around her shoulders as the wind whipped the rain sideways. She didn't hesitate, didn't pause. Just walked straight to the door like she belonged here, like she hadn't just stolen the roof over my head. The door creaked open, and she stepped inside, her hair damp from the rain, her expression unreadable. "How could you do this to me?" I asked, my voice a whisper that shook in the silence. Amanda dropped her purse on the hall table, her eyes meeting mine without a flicker of remorse. "You're weak, Mother," she said softly, her tone almost gentle. "I'm saving us both." The words landed like a slap. "You're not saving anyone," I said, my voice trembling. "You're destroying everything." She sighed, as if I were a child throwing a tantrum she didn't have time for. "You don't understand, Mom. You never have. You're clinging to things that are gone. I'm trying to give us both a future." "A future?" My voice cracked. "By taking everything from me?" Her lips curved in a small, cold smile. "By taking what you're not strong enough to hold." The air in the house felt heavy, each word a weight pressing down on my chest. I thought of Thomas's letter tucked safely in the drawer, his words a lifeline in the darkness. "This house is your legacy, Evie. Don't let anyone take it from you." But doubt crept in, like the cold seeping through the windows. Maybe Amanda was right. Maybe I wasn't strong enough. Maybe I never had been. Lydia's words echoed in my mind. "You're stronger than you know, Evelyn. Don't let her break you." I tried to hold on to that, but the fear was a tide that threatened to pull me under. I thought of my mother's voice, the way she'd always said I was too soft, too fragile. Amanda was her echo, her words a dagger that cut deeper because they were spoken by the daughter I'd loved more than my own life. After Amanda left, Lydia came by. She took one look at my face and pulled me into her arms, her warmth a balm against the chill. "You have to be careful, Evelyn," she whispered. "She's dangerous. She's not the daughter you remember." I pulled back, searching her eyes. "What if she's right, Lydia? What if I can't fight her?" She shook her head firmly. "Number, you can. You're not alone in this." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that the woman staring back at me in the cracked mirror was still strong enough to stand her ground. Later that night, Patrick stopped by, his coat dripping from the rain. He stood in the doorway, his presence a quiet comfort that steadied the storm in my chest. "I saw Amanda leaving earlier," he said softly, his eyes searching mine. "She looked different." "She's been lying to me, Patrick," I said, my voice breaking. "She forged my signature, took money from my account, and she says it's all for my own good." Patrick's brow furrowed, his expression darkening. "I've seen the way she looks at this place, like it's already hers." I looked away, the shame hot in my cheeks. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm not strong enough to keep it. His hand found mine, his grip warm and steady. "Don't you believe that," he said firmly. "You're not alone, Evelyn. I see the truth. I see you." For a moment, the weight lifted. I let myself believe him. The next morning, I woke before dawn. The house was still, the air heavy with the scent of last night's rain. I moved through the rooms, my steps slow and careful, and went to the old cabinet in the study. The real deed, the one Amanda wanted so desperately, I hid it there, in a secret compartment Thomas built when we first bought the house. His laughter echoed in my memory as I ran my fingers over the hidden latch. "Just in case, Evie," he'd said. "You never know when you might need a safe place." I slipped the deed inside, my hand steady for the first time in days. I pressed the latch closed and stepped back, feeling a surge of quiet triumph. Amanda could tear the house apart, but she wouldn't find it. Not this time. I thought that would be enough, that hiding the deed would buy me time, a chance to find my footing. But the house still felt too quiet, the shadows too thick. Then I heard Amanda's voice again, this time from the other side of the wall. Her words cold and sharp, drifting through the old vent that carried every sound. "She's not well, George. You see that, don't you? She's dangerous." I froze, my breath catching in my throat. She was talking to George, her voice low and insistent. "You said you'd help me, George," she went on. "You said you'd stand by me. We can't let her keep control of that house. It's not safe." My mind reeled. George. Quiet. Gentle George. He'd been helping her all along. A cold fury settled in my chest, burning away the last threads of doubt. They'd been working together, spinning their lies around me like a web, and I'd trusted them both. I pressed my hand to the wall, feeling the thump of my own heartbeat. My own daughter, my own blood, and the man I thought I could trust. For a moment, I let the grief wash over me, the betrayal, the loss, but then I straightened my shoulders, my jaw set. Because if Amanda thought she'd broken me, she was wrong. I'm not the fragile woman she thinks I am. I'm the woman who built this home with my own two hands, who survived the sharp tongue of my mother and the silence of my father. I'm the woman who has learned that love is not always gentle, and that sometimes you have to fight for the things that matter most. The rain fell harder outside, the wind rattling the windows. I turned away from the vent, my eyes clear, my resolve sharp as the storm. I will not let them take this house from me. I will not let them take me. Not now. Not ever. The hallway light flickered above me, a rhythmic pulse in the dim silence of the house. I stood there, my hand braced against the wall, the reflection in the cracked mirror across from me a stranger. A woman with tear-streaked cheeks and eyes that had seen too much. George's words still rang in my ears, cold and final. "You were never meant to keep this house, Evelyn." He said it like it was a kindness, like I was holding on to something that didn't belong to me. But this house was my life. Every creak of the floorboards, every nail in the walls, each one a testament to the years I'd spent making it a home. And now he stood there, siding with Amanda, erasing everything I'd built. I wiped my cheeks with trembling hands, my breath ragged. "They see me as a burden," I thought, the words bitter and bright in my chest. "But I'm stronger than they know." The door creaked open and Lydia slipped inside, her presence warm and steady in the dim light. She crossed the room without a word, pulling me into a hug that smelled of lavender and comfort. "You're not alone in this, Evelyn," she whispered against my hair. "I'm with you. We're going to fight this. I'll stand by you no matter what." I pulled back, searching her face for any flicker of doubt, but there was only fierce determination in her eyes. "Thank you," I said, my voice low but certain. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'll never have to find out," she said, her hand warm on my cheek. Patrick arrived later that day, his boots leaving wet prints on the floor from the rain outside. He looked tired, the lines in his face deeper than I'd ever seen them, but his eyes were clear, his voice sure. "I've spoken to Robert," he said as he settled into the worn armchair by the fire. "He's ready to help. We'll get that lawyer. We'll prove the truth, Evelyn." A spark of hope flared in my chest, small but bright. "I don't want to be afraid anymore," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "I'm done being silent." Patrick nodded. "Then let's show them you're not someone to be pushed aside." I took their words and wrapped them around me like armor. That night, I moved through the house with quiet purpose, changing the locks on the doors and tucking the real deed deeper into the secret compartment Thomas had built. My hands were steady, my heart beating a rhythm of defiance. Amanda noticed the changes the next morning. She stormed through the door, her eyes wild and sharp as broken glass. "What have you done, Mother?" She spat, her voice a venomous hiss. "I've protected what's mine," I said, my voice calm and clear. She took a step closer, her face twisted with rage. "You're ruining everything. Don't you see that? I'm trying to save us." "No," I said quietly, my gaze unwavering. "You're trying to save yourself, and I won't let you do it at my expense." Amanda's lips pulled back in a cold smile, her eyes glinting with something dark. "I won't let you ruin this, Mother," she said, her voice low and dangerous. I didn't flinch. "You don't get to decide who I am, or what I keep." She turned on her heel and stormed out, the door slamming behind her. The sound echoed through the house, but I didn't let it shake me. Each time she tried to push me down, I found a new way to stand. I sat in the kitchen after she left, the soft glow of the lamp casting long shadows across the worn wood. I thought of Thomas, his laughter, the way he used to stand behind me when I baked bread, his hands warm on my shoulders. He'd always seen my strength even when I couldn't. I closed my eyes, breathing deeply, feeling that strength settle in my bones. I'm still here, I whispered to the empty room, and I'm not done yet. As I moved through the house that evening, I found something that turned my resolve to iron. Amanda's journal, tucked carelessly in the back of the linen closet, the leather cover worn from her fingers. I hesitated for only a moment before I opened it, the pages filled with her neat handwriting. At first it was lists, things to fix, things to sell, things to claim as hers. But as I read on, the words twisted into something darker. Plans to have me declared incompetent. Notes about the lawyer she'd been consulting, about how to control the narrative so that no one would believe me. But it was the last pages that froze the blood in my veins. A name I'd never seen written in her hand before. Alan. My heart lurched as I read the lines of her real father, the man she'd discovered in old letters she must have found in the attic. She wrote about the anger she felt, the sense of betrayal that I'd hidden it from her. I pressed my hand to my mouth, the pages shaking in my grasp. My secret, the one I thought I'd buried so deep no one would ever find it, laid bare in her cold, precise script. She'd known for years, and she'd let that anger fester, twisting it into a weapon she could wield against me. I sank into the chair by the window, the journal open in my lap, the rain still falling outside in a soft, steady drumbeat. My tears fell silently, each one a memory of the girl I used to be, the woman I'd become. They see me as a burden, I thought, my fingers curling around the edge of the book, but I am stronger than they know. I closed the journal and set it aside, my mind clear and sharp. Amanda's secrets were no longer hers to use against me. I had her words now, her plans, her lies, her truths, and I would not let them define me. The flickering hallway light above me steadied, its glow soft and sure. I rose from the chair, my shoulders straight, my breath even. This is my house, my life, my truth, and I will not be erased. The attic was a place I rarely visited. It was dusty and cold, the air thick with the smell of old wood and forgotten memories. But tonight, I climbed the creaking stairs, the beam of my flashlight cutting through the darkness like a blade. I needed answers. I needed to see the truth for myself. The boxes were stacked in neat rows, each one a piece of the life Thomas and I had built. My hands trembled as I opened them, lifting the faded covers, sifting through the remnants of the past. Old photographs, birthdays, Christmas mornings, picnics in the sun. Each one a frozen moment that felt both close and impossibly distant. And then I found them, letters tied with a frayed blue ribbon. My breath caught as I slipped them from the box, the paper yellowed and fragile under my fingers. The first line was in Thomas's handwriting, but the second was Alan's, Thomas's best friend. I sank down onto an old trunk, my flashlight trembling in my grip. My heart pounded as I read the words that changed everything. Alan's voice was tender and full of guilt. I never meant for this to happen, Evelyn. But I loved you once, and she was ours in ways Thomas could never know. The words blurred as my eyes filled with tears. Amanda, my daughter, my own blood, but not Thomas's. Alan's. I pressed the letters to my chest, the attic spinning around me. I thought I knew everything. I whispered into the still air, my voice cracking like the dry wood beneath me. Amanda's cold eyes, the bitterness in her voice. It all made sense now. The simmering resentment, the constant accusations. She'd always felt like an outsider in her own home, and I'd kept the truth from her. I thought I was protecting her, but maybe I was only protecting myself. I sat there in the dark for what felt like hours, the letters spread out around me like ghosts. My mother's voice echoed in my mind. Never show your weakness, Evelyn. Some truths are better left buried. I'd believed her once, thought that silence was safety, but it hadn't saved me. It hadn't saved Amanda. Later, as the cold settled into my bones, I came down from the attic, the letters clutched in my hand like a confession. Amanda was waiting in the living room, her arms crossed, her eyes as sharp as broken glass. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. The letters were between us, a silent accusation that neither of us could escape. "I've always known I didn't belong," she said finally, her voice low and flat. "Even when I was a little girl, I felt it. The way you looked at me, the way Thomas loved me, but not quite the same." "Amanda," I began, but the words caught in my throat. She shook her head, her smile cold and sad. "You lied to me my whole life, Mother, and now you wonder why I'm doing what I'm doing." I swallowed hard, my heart aching. "I thought I was protecting you." Her laughter was hollow. "You were protecting yourself." I looked away, shame flooding through me. My mother's silence, my own. It was a legacy I'd carried forward thinking it was strength. But in the end, it had only built walls between me and the people I loved. Lydia came by that afternoon, her eyes kind but sharp as she listened to me pour out the truth. I showed her the letters, my hands shaking, my voice small. "This isn't just about the house, Lydia," I said. "It's about everything I've kept hidden." She took my hand in hers, her grip warm and grounding. "This isn't about property, Evelyn," she said gently. "It's about identity, about claiming your truth, even when it's messy." I thought of Amanda then, her cold smile, the anger that had been growing in her like a poison all these years. Maybe this had always been coming, this reckoning. Maybe it was the price of all the secrets I'd kept. Maybe this was always going to end in betrayal, I thought, the words like a confession in the still air of the kitchen. But as the weight of that truth settled around me, I felt something else, too. A quiet resolve, a flicker of strength I hadn't felt in years. But I won't be defined by secrets anymore. I looked around the house, my house, and felt the years of love and memory stitched into every corner. This place was more than just walls and windows. It was my life. The laughter, the pain, the quiet strength I'd found in the spaces my mother never filled. Amanda might have come from another man's blood, but she was still my daughter. I would always love her, but I wouldn't let her rewrite my life to fit her bitterness. I wouldn't let her turn my silence into surrender. The next morning, I moved through the house with careful purpose. I took the letters and the bank statement she'd forged, the photographs and the small notes I'd hidden away, the pieces of my story that Amanda thought she could erase. I tucked them into a box and slid it into the hidden compartment Thomas had built. My hands were steady, my heart clear. The emotional stakes felt sharper than ever. This wasn't just about keeping a roof over my head. It was about holding on to the truth of who I was, even when it hurt. I thought that was enough. I thought the worst was behind me. But that evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned the color of bruises, Amanda came to me again. Her voice was calm, almost sweet, as she sat across from me at the kitchen table. "I found your little hiding place, Mother," she said softly, her eyes glinting with a cruel triumph. "All your secrets, all your lies." My breath caught in my throat. "What are you talking about?" She leaned back in the chair, her smile cold and sharp. "You think you're so clever, but you're not. I know everything now. About Alan, about the letters, about how you lied to everyone, including me." "Amanda," she cut me off with a wave of her hand. "I'm going to tell them all, Mother. George, Lydia, everyone. I'm going to show them exactly who you are." I felt the blood drain from my face, my hands shaking as I gripped the edge of the table. But even as fear coiled in my chest, I felt a fierce, stubborn spark, the part of me that was done being silent. "I'm not afraid of the truth anymore," I said, my voice low and sure. "You can tell whoever you want, but I won't let you use my past to steal my future." For a moment her eyes flickered, uncertainty breaking through the mask. But then she smiled again, cold and bright. "We'll see, Mother," she said softly. "We'll see." As she stood and walked out, the weight of everything settled over me. The truth of who Amanda really was, the secrets I'd kept, the fight that was still ahead. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was drowning in the silence. I felt like I was finally breathing. This house is my legacy, my life, my soul, and I will not let her take it from me. The house was quiet that night, the only light coming from the flickering candles on the dining room table. Shadows danced across the walls, the warm glow casting everything in sharp relief. I sat at the head of the table, my hands folded neatly in front of me, my breath steady. No more secrets, no more fear. Amanda stood across from me, her arms folded, her jaw set. Her eyes burned with a cold fury that only deepened the lines in her face. She was beautiful in that cruel way my mother had been, all sharp edges and venom. "I'm done playing games, Amanda," I said, my voice calm and sure. "This ends tonight." She let out a soft, bitter laugh, her lips twisting into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You think you're strong enough to stand against me, Mother? After everything I've done to help you." "Help me?" I echoed, my voice low. "Is that what you call this? Stealing from me? Lying to me? Watching me like a prisoner in my own home?" Her fingers drummed against the table, the sound sharp in the heavy silence. "You're weak, Mother. You always have been. I'm the one who's had to clean up your messes, make sure everything still works. You can't see that, but I can." I took a deep breath, the flicker of the candles steady in the corner of my eye. "I see it, Amanda. I see everything now, and I know the truth, and you're not doing this for me. You're doing it for you." Her eyes widened, a flicker of something like panic flashing across her face. "I'm doing this for us," she snapped, her voice rising. "For this family. You're too old, too fragile to keep going. I'm the only one strong enough to make sure we don't lose everything." I shook my head slowly, my gaze steady. "Number, you're doing this for yourself, and you're wrong if you think I'm too weak to fight back." The words hung between us like a challenge, the air crackling with unspoken things. Amanda's mouth opened and closed, her hands curling into fists at her sides. "You can't break me, Amanda," I said softly, the calm in my voice like ice. "I'm stronger than you think." Her face twisted, her lips parting in a snarl. "You're delusional," she spat. "You're nothing without me." "I've always been something without you," I said. "I've lived through more than you could ever understand, and I will not let you take this from me." The door opened then, Lydia stepping in with a quiet grace that made my shoulders ease. She held her phone to her ear, her voice low but firm as she spoke to Robert. "Yes," she said. "It's time. We're ready." Amanda's head snapped around, her eyes narrowing. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Making sure you can't twist this any further," Lydia said, her tone calm and sure. "Robert will finalize everything. Your mother has rights, Amanda, ones you can't take away with your lies." Amanda's face flushed with fury. "You have no right. I have every right," Lydia interrupted, her voice as sharp as a blade. "And so does Evelyn." Patrick stepped out of the shadows then, his presence quiet but solid. He stood just behind me, his hands at his sides, his eyes locked on Amanda. "She's not alone, Amanda," he said softly. "Not anymore." Amanda's eyes darted between them, her face pale. "You think you're so clever, don't you?" she hissed. "You think you can stand there and lecture me like I'm some child?" "No," I said, my voice even. "I think I can stand here and tell you the truth. And the truth is, you're the one who's afraid, not me." Amanda's breath came in quick, shallow bursts, her chest rising and falling as she glared at me. "I've done everything for you, Mother. Everything. And this is how you repay me." I reached for the folder on the table, the one that held the forged documents she'd used to try and steal this house from me. My hands didn't shake as I picked it up, my fingers tight on the edges. "I'm not your puppet anymore," I said, my voice steady and cold. "And I'm not letting you rewrite my life." Before her eyes, I tore the papers in half, the sound of ripping paper like a final, decisive note in the still room. The pieces fluttered to the table, falling like leaves in the autumn wind. Amanda lunged forward, her hand snatching at the torn papers, her face twisted with rage. "You're insane!" she screamed. "You're going to ruin everything." I didn't flinch. "I'm saving everything," I said, my voice like steel, including myself. For a moment the room was silent, the only sound the crackle of the candles, the storm of our breathing. Then Amanda's shoulders slumped, her eyes going glassy with a sudden, searing desperation. She turned on her heel and disappeared down the hallway. I thought she was leaving, thought she'd finally given up. I stepped forward, my voice low but unbreakable. "You can tear this house apart brick by brick, Amanda," I said, "but you'll never take what makes it mine. My memories, my love, my life, that's something you can't steal." Amanda's shoulders slumped, her breath coming in ragged gasps, and in that moment, I saw her not as the child I'd raised or the woman who'd betrayed me, but as a person broken by the lies I'd thought would keep her safe. The silence settled heavy around us, the storm outside raging on. Lydia and Patrick stood behind me, their presence a promise I'd never be alone again. Amanda's voice was a whisper as she sank to the floor, her tears hot and bitter. I thought I was doing what was right. I knelt down, my hand resting on the cool wood of the floor. "You thought wrong," I said softly, "but that doesn't mean we have to keep living in the shadows of it." The finality of it settled in my bones. I would protect this house, I would protect myself, and I would not let the weight of Amanda's choices break me. The candlelight flickered across the torn papers on the table, each scrap a testament to the fight I'd waged for my life, my home, my truth. I was done being silent. The storm had rolled in fully by the time I made my final move. Rain hammered the windows, and lightning flashed across the sky in jagged streaks, illuminating the house I'd spent a lifetime trying to protect. I stood in the study, the small brass key in my hand, Thomas's old toolbox at my feet. My fingers trembled, but not from fear, from the weight of everything this moment meant. The toolbox was worn smooth with years of use, the wood smelling faintly of oil and cedar, the hinges creaking softly as I turned the key and opened it. The flicker of lightning lit the inside of the box, glinting off the metal tools, the old hammer Thomas had used to fix the fence out back, the chisel he'd taught me to hold steady. And there, beneath them all, was the real deed, the final truth, the heart of the fight that Amanda thought she could win. I took a deep breath, feeling the solid weight of the paper in my hand. I could almost hear Thomas's voice in the patter of the rain, his laughter soft and sure. "This house is yours, Evie. It's always been yours." I carried the deed into the living room where Amanda waited. She was pacing like a caged animal, her hair damp from the rain, her eyes glinting with a desperation that went deeper than anger. "What are you doing?" she snapped as I walked in. "You're making a fool of yourself." I held the deed in front of me, my voice calm and firm. "This house is mine, Amanda, and I'm not leaving." Her face twisted, her mouth opening in a snarl. "You're delusional. You're not well. You're making this worse for everyone." Lydia stood behind me, her shoulders straight, her voice steady. "You can't erase her, Amanda, no matter how hard you try." Amanda's eyes darted from Lydia to me, her breath coming in sharp, ragged bursts. "You're both crazy," she spat. "This isn't your house anymore, Mother. It's mine. It should have always been mine." I looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time, I saw past the anger and the bitterness. I saw the girl I'd failed to protect from my own silence. But I also saw the woman she'd chosen to become, and I knew I couldn't save her from that. "I see you for what you are now," I said, my voice quiet but unyielding. "And I'm not afraid." Amanda let out a harsh laugh, her hands shaking. "You think a piece of paper changes anything? You think you're strong enough to fight me?" George stepped forward from the doorway then, his voice soft but firm. "Let it go, Evelyn," he said. "You don't have to do this. Just let her have it." I turned to him, my eyes clear. "No," I said simply. "This ends here." Amanda's face crumpled, her fury boiling over. "You're pathetic," she screamed, lunging for the deed in my hand. But Lydia stepped between us, her voice like steel. "Enough, Amanda," she said, her hand on Amanda's arm. "You're not going to take this from her, not now." Amanda froze, her mouth open in shock. For a moment, the only sounds were the rumble of thunder and the steady drum of rain against the windows. My breath came in slow, even pulls. I felt the tears on my cheeks, but they weren't tears of fear. They were tears of relief, of release. I've spent my whole life being silent. I said, my voice breaking but strong. Letting you take and take because I thought it was what a mother does, but I see the truth now, and I won't let you have this. Amanda's shoulders sagged, the fight draining from her like water from a cracked vessel. She looked at me with a mixture of rage and something else, something that almost looked like grief. You don't know what you're doing, she said, her voice shaking. Yes, I said softly. I do. Patrick came in then, his presence quiet and solid. It's over, Amanda, he said, his voice gentle but final. You can't keep this going. But Amanda wasn't done. She turned on him, her face twisting. You think you know her? You think you know what she's done? She lied to all of us. I know she's telling the truth now, Patrick said, and that's all that matters. Amanda let out a ragged sob, her hands clenching at her sides. You're all against me, she whispered. No, Lydia said, her voice soft but fierce. We're standing with her. Amanda stared at us, at the calm in our faces, the quiet certainty that no matter what she did, we would not bend. And for the first time, I saw her truly falter. The sound of sirens cut through the storm then, blue and red lights flickering outside. Amanda's eyes widened, her face going pale. What did you do? She hissed, her voice hoarse. I told the truth, I said. I told them about the forged documents, about the money you took. Amanda's mouth opened in shock, her breath coming in sharp, shallow gasps. You called the police on your own daughter? She spat. You gave me no choice, I said softly. You broke every trust we ever had, and now it's time to answer for that. George stepped back, his face ashen. Amanda, he began, but she turned on him with a look that could have frozen fire. Don't you dare, she snapped. The door opened and the officers stepped in, their uniforms dark against the warm glow of the candles. One of them, a tall man with kind eyes, looked at me and nodded. Evelyn? He asked. Are you ready to do this? I took a deep breath, my fingers tightening around the deed. Yes, I said. I'm ready. Amanda took a step back, her eyes darting wildly. You can't do this to me, she said, her voice cracking. You're my mother. I know, I said softly, the ache in my chest sharp but clean. And I love you, but I won't let you destroy me. The officers moved forward, their voices calm, their hands gentle as they led Amanda out of the room. Her eyes met mine one last time, wide and furious, but I didn't look away. The door closed behind them, the storm still raging outside. I stood there in the quiet that followed, my shoulders trembling with the weight of everything I'd lost, and everything I'd refused to surrender. Lydia came to my side, her arm around my shoulders. You did it, she said. You stood your ground. I did, I whispered, my tears falling freely now. For the first time in my life, I didn't let the silence win. Patrick took my hand, his grip steady. You're not alone, Evelyn, not anymore. I looked around the room, the soft candlelight flickering on the walls, the smell of rain and old wood filling the air. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Because the house was mine. My life was mine. And for the first time, I knew I would never let anyone take that from me again. The sun rose gentle and golden the next morning, its light pouring through the kitchen window in soft waves that painted everything in warmth. I sat at the old oak table, the same one Thomas and I had chosen together all those years ago, my hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. The air smelled of fresh bread, the yeast and warmth filling every corner of the room like a promise. The house was quiet again. No more angry footsteps, no more veiled threats. Just the sigh of the old floorboards and the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. For the first time in what felt like years, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt like peace. I looked around at the worn counters, the faded curtains, the small chips in the porcelain sink. They were more than imperfections. They were the story of a life built here, of laughter and heartbreak, of quiet mornings and long nights. My life, my home. The door opened softly behind me, and Lydia stepped in, her smile warm and her eyes bright. She carried a basket of fresh flowers, their colors a burst of life against the soft glow of the kitchen. Morning, Evelyn, she said, setting the basket on the table and taking a seat across from me. You look one different today. I feel different, I said, my voice calm and sure, like I've finally come home. She reached across the table, her hand warm and steady on mine. You didn't just save the house, Evelyn, you saved yourself. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting her words settle in my chest. I saved myself. It sounded simple, but it felt like the bravest thing I'd ever done. Patrick arrived a few minutes later, his quiet presence filling the room like sunlight. He took a seat beside Lydia, his hands folded neatly on the table. How are you feeling this morning? He asked, his voice gentle. I'm at peace, I said, for the first time in a long time. He nodded, a small smile on his lips. You're not alone anymore. We're with you, every step of the way. The warmth in his words settled around me like a blanket. I'd spent so much of my life believing that strength meant silence, that survival meant carrying the weight alone. But I'd learned that real strength came from opening the door and letting people stand beside you. I took a deep breath, the scent of the bread filling my lungs. Thank you, I said softly, for standing by me, for seeing me. Lydia squeezed my hand. You've always been stronger than you knew, Evelyn. We just helped you see it. I thought of Amanda then, of the girl she'd been and the woman she'd become. My heart ached with the weight of everything we'd lost, the laughter we'd shared, the trust that had been broken. But even in that ache, there was a quiet acceptance. She was gone now, facing the consequences of her choices, and while part of me would always love her, I knew that her path was no longer mine to follow. I could only hope she found her own truth, her own peace someday. The door to the back garden creaked open as the wind shifted, carrying in the scent of wet earth and growing things. I rose from the table and stepped outside, the morning sun warm on my face. The garden was overgrown, but I didn't mind. It felt alive in a way it hadn't in years, wild and beautiful, like something that had survived the storm. I walked down the narrow path, my fingers brushing the leaves of the rosemary bush that Thomas had planted so many springs ago. Each step felt like a promise to myself that I would no longer let the past define me, that I would no longer let silence steal my voice. Back inside, I paused at the doorway to the living room, my gaze drifting over the photographs on the mantel. Thomas's smile, Amanda's gap-toothed grin as a little girl, my own face younger and unlined. They were pieces of a life that would always be mine, no matter how many storms tried to tear it apart. I ran my fingers over the edge of one frame, my heart swelling with quiet pride. I'm not just surviving, I thought, the words ringing clear in the stillness. I'm living, and I'll never be silent again. Lydia came to stand beside me, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder. What now? She asked, her voice gentle. Now? I said, my lips curving into a soft smile. Now I live, I breathe, I take back every part of myself I thought I'd lost. Patrick joined us, his arm brushing mine. And we'll be here, he said, for whatever comes next. I nodded, my throat tight with gratitude. I know. We stood there for a moment, the three of us, the weight of the past lifting in the golden light of the new day. The house felt like it was breathing with me, the old walls settling into a peace they hadn't known in years. As the morning wore on, I returned to the kitchen. I pulled the fresh bread from the oven, the crust golden and warm beneath my fingers. I set it on the table, the scent filling the room with comfort and memory. The sun shone bright through the window, painting the table in soft light. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the warmth wash over me, and felt the quiet hum of contentment in my chest. This house was more than wood and stone. It was every laugh and tear, every moment of love and loss. It was the echo of Thomas's voice, the weight of my mother's silence, the fragile strength of my own heart. And it was mine. Truly, finally mine. I took a seat at the table, my hands wrapped around my coffee cup, the smell of bread and rosemary thick in the air. Outside, the storm had passed, the world washed clean and bright. I looked out the window, the garden alive and wild, the sun shining on the wet leaves, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was home. This is my house, my life, my truth, and I would never let it be taken from me again. The clock on the wall ticked softly, each second a quiet testament to survival, to hope, to the life I'd reclaimed for myself. I smiled, the light in my eyes steady and sure, because I wasn't just a woman in an old house anymore. I was Evelyn, and I was finally free.